funds, endowment funds, individual investors, they care more about what the yield is, not what the spreads are.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, as we mentioned, the belly is what everyone's talking about. But is there any sort of opportunity on the other end?
I mean, there are always opportunities, but where we are most comfortable in the yield curve is really in the belly.
What about gold? I'm curious what you think about the relationship of gold to fixed income these days. Gold continues to zoom higher. Now $4,061 an ounce, and it just pierced $4,000 this morning.
Insane.
Yeah. So, and there seems to be very little that people can identify that's going to stop this momentum. It's driven by inflows into gold ETFs and also central bank buying. How does that play off of what's happening in treasuries, or doesn't?
Yeah. So you've just hit on a key aspect of it, Scarlett. So there are obviously two components of any market, supply and demand. And you just hit the two main components of demand, and that's central bank buying, and that's the ETF buying. I think the ETF wrapper is providing people with an easily accessible way to buy gold instead of buying bullion and storing it someplace. So you've got an increase in demand for gold. On the other side, if you look at the supply of gold, it's really been pretty constant. So you've got this mismatch between supply and demand. I think in terms of the relationship that we've seen, historically, gold has been correlated with real yields. So when you see real yields come down, gold prices go back up. So why is that? The opportunity cost is lower. If you can't get a high rate in treasuries or in risk-free assets, then maybe gold becomes more attractive. But what we've seen really post-pandemic, that relationship has broken down. And I think it's really a function of the supply and demand. But I think the point would be that that's broken down really over the last 5 years. So I don't read anything different in gold pricing about U.S. exceptionalism or the dollar or flight to currency or anything like that. I think it's old-fashioned supply and demand fundamentals.
You don't see it as part of the debasement trade that everyone keeps talking about?
Not really, no.
You don't buy into that? I guess someone who's the global head of fixed income, probably doesn't see much value in that, but had to ask it.
I mean, do you think we have more room to run here?
On gold,
yeah.
My only strong view on that is I like it as jewelry, as you can see from my necklace. I'm not enough in the weeds on supply and demand of gold to have a strong view on that. I think I've got a good handle on what's going on, the fundamentals and why we've seen prices going, but I'm not a technical analyst on gold and whether we've got more room to run.
All right, Kay, always appreciate your joining us. Thank you so much for coming into studio. Kay Her is U.S. CIO of Global Fixed Income Currencies and Commodities at JP Morgan Asset Management. All right, did you know that the outgoing French Prime Minister is speaking in Paris right now? Let's go over to Caroline Conan, Bloomberg News reporter, on the latest from the French PM's Sebastian Lecornu's conversation. Caroline, what can you tell us we've learned here?
This is very much happening right now because the outgoing Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, who resigned on Monday night and was given by President Macron 48 hours to try and find a solution, is saying that he has spoken with President Macron tonight for more than 1 hour, and he has told President Macron that after speaking with all the parties in the National Assembly, President Macron should be able to name a new prime minister in the next 48 hours. That's not going to be him. He says his mission is over. But of course, the question was President Macron going to be forced to call for new snap legislative elections, or perhaps even resign and call for new presidential elections? Those prospects seem to be going away as we speak, at least according to the outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, who's been holding for the past 48 hours discussions with every single party from the center right, from the center left, except the extremes who didn't want to meet him. And there is a lot of fragmentation, as you know, in this National Assembly in France since President Macron called snap elections in June 2024. And that created this situation when there is no majority possibility. Of course, at the heart of the discussions, and probably Sébastien Lecornu is going to talk about this right now on national television, is the pension reform, that very sensitive subject, pension reform, which passed in 2023 after months of strikes and protests in the street. This is at the heart of the negotiations because the socialists have said that if they come back on board, if they don't vote the next vote of no confidence against the next prime minister, then we have to have some sort of discussion or suspension of this pension reform. And they have also called for the possibility of having a socialist prime minister next. We'll